Hi, welcome. If you're new to the channel, my name's Elliott and you're watching Rickety Ski Reviews. Today we're gonna be talking about ski industry gossip, ski industry news, and without much further ado, let's just jump right into it. If you want to support this channel, we just opened a Patreon. Thank you everyone who has helped support that. We also have affiliate links down below if you're shopping for skis, but that's all I'm gonna say. Let's just go right into the industry gossip. I always feel like I'm probably more on the gossip side than news. Now in our first story, Atomic, Fischer, and Blizzard may be in hot water. There's an ongoing investigation and there was a raid last week in all of their Austrian factories. The allegations, let's just read them. Merkur.de reports the focus is on a possible suspicion of illegal price fixing in the European ski market. Ski manufacturers are not allowed to collude on prices because this violates competition law. The aim of such agreements is usually to eliminate competition. If no one offers genuine price differences, all manufacturers can sell their products at higher prices. The Techniker Group stated in this article, the company is convinced that it has always acted in full compliance with applicable laws and immediately offered its full cooperation to the authorities involved. The EU Commission is also keeping a low profile, stating that such investigations do not necessarily mean that the companies in question have engaged in anti-competitive practices. So I'm not gonna read the full article. If you want to do that, check out their article. There's also a pretty good article on Snowbrains, but I wanted to kind of cut straight to the first report that I'd seen on it. But now that I've listed off the official statements, let me give you my opinion. Now it's kind of an interesting group that they're investigating. Blizzard, or Blizzard if you're in the US. Atomic, and what was the other one? Fischer? Suspicion of illegal price fixing. I guess I don't know what the EU's standards are for price fixing. I guess they kind of outline it in the article for colluding and making it so that everybody has high prices so that everyone makes more money. Could I see that being real? Yeah. Yeah, I can see that, absolutely. Are you joking? I mean, skiing is interesting because you have a handful of really flagpole brands that kind of set the price. And I think during the COVID times and during some of the supply chain issues, that there were brands, especially smaller brands, that had to raise their prices because they were having a hard time getting edge material, base material, things like that. But some of these brands were so big and had already ordered all of this stuff in such large quantities that they probably weren't affected. And I can see a world where there was an opportunity for them to raise those prices under that kind of guise of supply chain issues, yada, yada. I don't know that for sure. I think that one piece of evidence that points me in the direction of believing that skis are probably overpriced a little bit. And again, this is just my opinion. I'm not making any legal statements, but I would say one indicator to me that ski prices are probably a bit overinflated is how cheap they go on sale in the off season. And I'm not just talking about like stuff that goes down from 800 to 600 or 700. I am talking about when you see a brand really have to unload something. Look at the Salomon QST 92, look at the Atomic Bent 90. Look at any of those skis where they go out of business and they have to kind of liquidate. I think that that really shows their hand of just how little it probably costs, because you're buying that from a retailer who still has to make some money on it, right? The ski has passed hands a couple of times. They've flown over from Europe. The fact that you can ship a ski over from Atomic's warehouse in Europe or wherever it might be to a warehouse in Salt Lake City and then sell it for $320, $350. What did we see the Atomic Bent 110 go for last year? Like around $370. The fact that you can do that indicates to me that your cost of making the ski was never anywhere near the $1,000 mark that is now. Let's just look at it. Let's look. What's an Atomic Bent 110 2026 cost? Oh, it's $750. A 2026 model, $750. Okay. The Grateful Dead edition is $1,100. Gosh, okay, I won't get started on that. I like the ski, but you can buy an Atomic Bent 110 right now for $750. So let's say that that's kind of what Atomic would lead you to believe is a fair price for this ski, but you can buy a 2025 right now for $375 on backcountry.com. That is a huge gap in price difference. I don't know, I don't have any insight into the relationship between these brands. I don't have any understanding of like how pricing is set and what that conversation looks like. And I'm sure that it makes sense where if you have a similar ski, you're gonna wanna price it similarly to other brands. The weird part though is that a lot of these brands are so consolidated that they can kind of artificially puff up what the prices should be. For instance, Atomic can set the price on Atomic Bent 110, but they also set the price on a Salomon QST 106. They also set the price with Armada skis. I mean, Atomic doesn't specifically, but Amer Sports owns all of those brands, right? So it makes sense that their ski lines where the widths are similar would have similar prices, but from the consumer side, you see that as, okay, maybe I'm only really interested in Armada, Atomic, Salomon skis, and you may not realize that they are all under the Amer Sports umbrella. You could go, okay, I guess just looking at these three brands, yeah, that's what the fair price is. So it's interesting that these handful of brands talking might seem like, oh, well, just three brands talking. Well, Blizzard is also under the same umbrella as Nordica, and Fischer is pretty much just Fischer, as far as I know. And then Atomic is under the umbrella of Amer Sports. Suddenly, now this is like, oh, you could be looking at 6 brands, and the pricing looks pretty convincing from the consumer side. That's why I've been a big advocate for telling people, like, if you're looking for the best value, buy it in the off season. That being said, I get why people don't wait for the rock bottom either, because like sometimes you just need that ski, sometimes you want the right length. Getting a proper fit is more important than getting the best deal. But in my opinion, the big gap between what a ski is set at, whatever you want to call it, MAP, MSRP, whatever it is kind of starting out the season at price-wise from the retailers to what it costs when it goes on sale, that is such a large gap that I'm not surprised they got investigated. I'll leave it at that. Now, that being said, I'm not alleging anything. I don't have any inside information. I'm just kind of giving my opinion on something that happened, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this actually unfolds. The other thing I want to talk about really quickly is ski pricing. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think one thing that is wild is looking at an Atomic Bent 110 go for $1,100. I think it's wild business spending $1,100 on an Atomic Bent 110 when you could spend $1,500 to $1,600 on a DPS Kaizen 112. I think the build quality, I think the materials, I think the experience is so much better on a Kaizen 112 that honestly, brands raising their prices like this, it only kind of, I don't know, I could see more people making the leap into a Kaizen 112. You know, especially you can get a Atomic Bent 110 right now from Backcountry for $374, or you can get the new Grateful Dead graphic for $1,100. I don't even have a problem with expensive skis. Like, there are some skis where if you are a high mileage user, you will get the benefit of that extra money that you're putting into the ski. But not always. If you buy a 2025 Atomic Bent 110, or you buy a 2026 Grateful Dead edition Bent 110, you're getting the same ski. I get that there's like some collectors or whatever, the graphics are cool, but I just tell you, do they even have that? Let me look. Can you still get that ugly DPS Kaizen that they can't sell? Let's see. Do they still have it? No, I think they sold it. No, you can't get the Mark Roth-John one anymore, but you could have. That's the same price as the Bent 110 that you could get. Anyway, doesn't matter. What I'm saying more is that this price difference is huge, and I think that as brands raise their prices, and they've talked about raising their prices, even going in with the tariff talks, a lot of them kind of slowly inked their prices up. I think that if some of these flagship brands get too greedy, you are gonna see people go, okay, well, for a few hundred more, I could try a DPS Kaizen out. Like, I'm kind of curious about it. And I think once people at least try that, they're gonna see the difference. Like, if you buy an Atomic Bent 110 for $400 or $500, you're getting a good value. The value per ski you get is really high there. I personally ski on the Bent 120 because it's a good value per ski I'm getting. But spending $1,100, $750 for an Atomic Bent 110 versus the $1,500 DPS Kaizen 112, now you're getting a little bit closer, apples to apples. I think once skis go over the price of $1,000, suddenly that is a different person looking, and suddenly that is somebody who goes, oh, maybe I do want to make that jump over to a more premium brand like DPS, like Stokely. I don't know. I think as far as skis go, there's price and then there's value. And I think everyone should look at what is the value for you here. How many days can you even get on a ski like that? What is it providing? And that's what I'm always trying to do. I have been a big advocate for talking about price, but also really talking about value. And there are some skis that are niche. Like I've got this DPS Pieceworks behind me. That is not for everyone. If you are looking for a one ski quiver travel ski, that's not it. It's really good at being springy. It's really good at carving short radius turns. It's good at this one thing. And if you need to do this one thing really well, then there will be value for you. For everybody else, there is not value for you. And I think as ski brands look at like setting their prices, whether they're doing that in coherence with one thing, that's a different issue. But when ski brands look at setting their price, I think sometimes they get lost in price versus value. And as we see with how cheap they are willing to sell these skis just to unload them, there is a big gap. And we're seeing that especially because of the COVID bubble, because of, like inventory. I think people way over-ordered, manufacturers way overproduced during this big COVID bubble. And then, okay, well, those people have skis. People aren't buying new skis every single year. Or, oh, we think it's gonna keep growing. And it's like, nope, that was it. That was everybody that was interested. And some of it too, a little bit, is on the hands of these ski mountains where they don't make it easy for people to get into the sport initially. They make it so that ski passes versus ski tickets, it's really hard to kind of dip your toes into it because some of these ski hills have been so overcrowded because they utilize either the Epic or Icon Pass. People get fed up and they're not going to spend their money on skis if they're spending all this money on passes or if they're just standing in line. So I think some of that also kind of combined for what we're seeing with this curtailing of volume of people buying skis. But the ski pricing is weird, and from the consumer side, just from the outside looking in, I think that the gap of what they sell them for in the peak season versus what they sell them in the off season, at the very least, makes me raise my eyebrows a little bit. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on ski prices. Oh, speaking of Atomic, we had an update from People magazine from the employee at the Austrian factory of Atomic, who was basically selling the reject skis that didn't pass quality control. Let me read just a snippet from the article. Okay, an Austrian man has been convicted of stealing more than 2,600 pairs of skis in a scheme that played out over 2 years, quietly turning factory rejects into cash. The 58-year-old worked for Atomic, one of the world's leading ski manufacturers, at the company's plant in Pongau region of Salzburg, according to Salzburg, Nachrichten, ORF Salzburg, and Yahoo Life. Per the outlets, he was handed a 14-month suspended sentence and ordered to pay 80,000 euros, or about 88,000, to the company in April. The outlets report that the company video footage captured the man loading skis at night, helping to confirm the scale of the thefts. You can read the full article if you want. I'm not going to go into all the details. But in court, the man apologized to the company, to my family, and to the court, saying he had done something stupid back then, the first time in my life. He also told the judge he usually asked for significantly less than 50 euros and also received less. Okay, so I'm not gonna read anymore. That is interesting. I mean, 80,000 euros is a lot, but all things considered, that's not that much for 2,600 pairs of skis, right? Yeah, that's, if I'm doing the quick math in my head, that's what, around 30 euros per pair of skis that he's paying back? I don't know. That seems like pretty small potatoes in the big picture. I mean, I know that's a lot, especially now this guy's unemployed, and I'm sure people working at ski factories aren't exactly, driving Bentleys. But I think that sounds like an amount that you could pay back pretty reasonably over an extended period of time. What do I think about this? Who's at fault? I think both parties kind of suck here. Okay. For one, Atomic should have a better way of recycling or reusing or donating their failed product. It seems really wasteful that over the course of like 2+ years, there were 2,600 pairs of skis that were going to get thrown out that could have at least been utilized in some way safely. I think a lot of these skis, at least from all the articles I've read, the impression I get is that these skis were not structurally unsafe, they were more cosmetically unpleasant or had minor defects. And if he was able to sell them, it leads me to believe that people were still able to safely ski on them. So assuming that's my assumption, that's me reading between the lines. But if these 2,600 pairs of skis were safe to ski on, then I think Atomic really needs to reassess what they're doing with their waste product. Could they have blemished product that they sell at discounted rates? It doesn't have to be 50 euros, but like, doesn't it make sense from an environmental impact to be able to have blemished skis that people can buy and say, okay, this doesn't come with a warranty, it doesn't get you this, but like even evo.com sells used skis where they're returned and they have blemishes like this. And it seems like a huge waste for the company and a huge waste for consumers. Like people maybe who can't afford the brand new thing, but that would be what got them on snow and maybe made them Atomic fans down the line. I knew people back in my race days where there was a guy who gave us a bunch of blemished Dynastar skis because they were moving the factory out of Vermont. I forget, Burlington maybe? Anyway, they were moving the factory out of Vermont, and so a bunch of the people on my race team got Dynastar skis, and a lot of those people skied on Dynastar for life because they became brand loyal and they liked the skis. So I think that Atomic really failed here. And I'm sure that if you look closely, a lot of ski manufacturers don't do a good job of this. Whereas like other brands do. You can buy Meyer skis blemished. Whenever I go on their website to like kind of send someone a link, they have their blemished product on their webpage. And I think that more companies should do that because it would allow people to get on your skis. Not everybody can do demo days. Renting is expensive, right? Like for the average consumer, demoing more than like 1 or 2 pairs of skis financially doesn't make any sense because you're gonna end up dropping $180 and then, like some places will let you use that towards your skis purchase, but a lot of places they only let you do that for 1 or 2 times. I think Atomic failed here in not providing blemished skis from being overly wasteful. Going to the guy though, the employee who is doing this, I think he also is clearly at fault here. I mean, obviously from a legal standpoint, he's convicted. But to be totally fair, the thing that stinks from Atomic's standpoint, and where I think this guy kind of went wrong, is that now that he has sold these skis, right? He's only sold them for 50 to 30 euros, whatever he said. But that doesn't mean that the people who sold them after were selling them for that amount. And now you have this situation where people are blending them into the used market where they are not the same quality as what people were paying new for their Atomic skis. Now you are devaluing everybody who is going to sell their used skis and, whatever, like you can say whatever you want about selling used skis, but let's say you buy a ski, you ski on it for a week, and you go, oh, like the Atomic Vent 110 really is too wide for where I ski, whatever, this ski doesn't fit what I need it to do. You go to sell it, and you're not looking to make a profit, but you're looking to like at least like scratch back some of what you sold it for, right? So let's say you buy a Vent 110 for $750, you ski on it for a week, you mount bindings on it, you go, oh, I'm not really enjoying this. You go and you try to sell it for $500 just to scrape back some of it and go get a different pair of skis. Well, now the market's been flooded with a bunch of 50 euro skis that are maybe being sold for 150 to 200 euros or 150, 200 bucks, whatever. Now you can't scratch back any of that money. You really are either stuck with a ski or gonna take a huge loss. And so it does damage in that way. It also means that people are getting a lower quality product than what they would normally get, which devalues the skis for Atomic. I kind of get where, like, it's easy to see this guy as kind of a Robin Hood. Everybody likes the idea of, oh my God, what if I got $50 skis? Isn't that great? Or 50 euro skis. But the reality is that, like, it is kind of coming at the cost of the value of skis from Atomic, and it is basically flooding the used market and devaluing people's skis. And from a consumer's perspective, if you say, okay, I buy an Atomic Bent 110 and it instantly becomes worthless after a year, sure, maybe you wouldn't be so keen to buy another pair of Atomics down the line. So I think being fair to both parties, there is damage on either side, but this could have been very easily avoided if Atomic had taken the time and thought about like the environmental and economic impact of just tossing skis into a dumpster rather than having a blemished line that they would sell on the side. And brands do it. Meyer Skis does it, a handful of other brands do it. So something to consider in the future, but I've made a video about it in the past, and I think being more thoughtful about it, that both parties in this case made mistakes along the way. In my opinion, I'm not, in my back of a shed opinion. All right, and finally getting into the deep rumor part of the segment. It looks like Julien Renier and Camille Jacot have left Black Crows. Camille Jacot was one of the co-founders of Black Crows, and Julien Renier was their shaper, one of the more instrumental people at the company. There wasn't an official statement from Julien yet, but Camille made a video kind of, looking back on his career with Black Crows. I'm not sure what to make of all of this. I can't speculate anything as to why they've left. They haven't made any statements as far as like why they left or what's going on. I'm not sure what's going on. At the surface, it looked like Black Crows was really successful. They sell a lot of skis. They have some really cool designs. It will be interesting to see how this unravels. The big thing that sets off alarm bells to me is that Julien Renier being the shaper of the skis, Black Crow skis, like what makes them really stand out for performance is their shape. They aren't using any crazy materials. They don't have any kind of gimmicks with materials they use as far as like carbon or a ton of Titanol, a specific type of wood. As far as material and what they're made out of, it is pretty boilerplate. That poplar wood, the fiberglass top sheets, all of that is pretty standard. What really makes them stand out is that shaping. You look at the Black Crows Octo, you look at the Apres, you look at any of their kind of standout skis, the Mittens Core, a great example. They are so unique in their shaping that to me, a big red flag is when you lose the guy doing the shaping. What do you have? I mean, you still have those designs, obviously, that they can use going forward, and you can get other shapers, but that's a giant alarm bell to me. In my opinion, as somebody who reviews their skis, that is what makes Black Crow skis interesting. That is really what makes them unique, stand out. That is where a lot of their performance comes from. And so when you lose that, when you kind of lose the heart of what makes your brand unique, maybe they can figure something else out, but that seems like a tremendous loss. So I was really surprised to see that. I was really surprised to see Julien leave. It'll be interesting to see as we hear more. Also, some insider information. My rep with Black Crows, a lot of companies use a marketing company and then those people reach out to me. My point of contact with Black Crows, they were also let go from Black Crows, like as a client. And I think that Black Crows is doing a massive downsizing, so I won't have access to Black Crows skis this year. I reached out to my point of contact in France. Maybe it was just bad timing, they're really busy, so I may still be able to get on the skis while I go out to France. I'll try to email them again. But as of right now, I won't have the opportunity to test and review any more Black Crow skis. And I don't think it was personal, it's just my rep is no longer working with them, and they were saying that a lot of people were just kind of cut off from Black Crows. So that's a huge alarm bell to me. I don't know what's going on. I'm kind of giving you guys probably more inside information than I should, but that's just me. I'm a transparent person. I want to be honest with you. I like Black Crow skis. I've always been a big advocate for them because I think they were doing something really unique, but you cut off the shaper or the shaper leaves. I guess I don't know what the relationship was like. And now you don't provide access for people to review them. Those are two pretty big flagpoles of helping people understand the skis, or at least what I see makes those brands successful. Not so much me, more the shaper part. But I don't know. I guess we'll see. I wish nothing but the best for Black Crows. I like what they're doing. They made unique skis. They were pushing the envelope for like what you could make out of the shape of a ski and what kind of terrain. I still think the Black Crows Octo is such a phenomenally shaped and built ski. Mittens Core as well is iconic. They've got some fabulous skis. The Draco Freebird was astounding. They've got some great skiers on there. It looks like Nikolai Schirmer, as far as I can tell, is still with them. He does a good job with his ski videos. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm wishing nothing but the best for Black Crows. I don't want to see, more and more consolidation of the ski industry. I like it when there is somebody standing out doing something unique. But this is certainly concerning, to say the least. So let me know if you guys have any insight or any opinions. I don't think that, instantly any Black Crow ski is bad, right? Julien Renier still designed a phenomenal Black Crows Octo, Black Crows Mittens Core, and I will be excited to see where he goes next because he has designed some of my favorite skis. In my opinion, it's weird. There's something going on that we're not seeing, and only time will kind of wash that out slowly, but it's certainly, at the very least, concerning. Oh, all right, last piece of industry gossip. Rise and Alpine was on my feed lately. Apologizing to the Whistler Ski Patrol. What does the caption say? Deleted my October Whistler videos. Here's why, and a quick mountain safety reminder for all of us keeners. Enjoy full-on fall and stay safe in the backcountry. Essentially, what James, right? What James was doing was he was filming like him going up, traversing, and then hitting these powder lines. And typically you're not allowed to do uphill travel during the winter, right? Because there's avalanche mitigation, it's not safe, there's a myriad of like safety reasons. Again, this is my understanding, I'm not from Whistler. And during the off season, he had utilized that trail to access it because, you know, it's not winter, it seems there's no downhill traffic, and you would expect that there's just, in October, less activity. He posted his video and then got a ping from the ski patrol saying like, hey, even in the off season, you're not allowed to do this, which he didn't realize, I think innocently enough. Most people, I think once the ski mountain closes, you assume like, okay, like everything's kind of safe, right? There's not a lot of like traffic, there's no snowmobiles going up and down. And what they told him was basically like, hey, we still do avalanche mitigation even in the early season. We don't want people like copying that and then having to worry about that and having somebody get hurt. And so James basically said, hey, I took my video down. I respect Ski Patrol. It was just something that I didn't realize was unsafe. And, you know, shout out to Rise and Alpine. James, this is like the best way you could handle it. Saying, hey, I'm taking this down. I don't want someone else to get hurt. I didn't realize I made a mistake, and I respect Ski Patrol, and I understand their decision and why it's unsafe. Because what you might not think of is like when creators or whatever, I hate the word, ski YouTubers, influencers, God. When we make videos, there's a delay of like when we make it and when people see it. I still get like seething comments about my top 10 East Coast skills. I made that list based on like what I liked when I was a kid. So I'll get like, oh, this guy has no idea. I'm like, oh my God, that was like 2 years ago. I don't even remember my list. And so what can happen is James could have made this video in October, but by the time it circulated into someone's feed, especially people's interest in skiing is more in the winter than it is in the off season, they could have seen that in the winter, seen that line and been like, oh, I'm gonna do that too during the peak season when it is unsafe. I mean, it's obviously unsafe year round, and that's Ski Patrol's bigger point, but I think what James did was not only apologize, but take down the video. And for him, like a video like that is part of his income. It's probably, I don't know how much he makes, but it's not like a tremendous amount, but it adds up over time. So not only did he take the high road and, you know, claw that back and just say, hey, I don't need the money from this video down the line. I just want to make sure people are safe. He took the high road financially. He also took the high road in not just sweeping it under the rug, which is really easy to do. He calls it out. He says, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done this. I have fully support of the Ski Patrol, and here's why it was wrong, so that anybody who did see the video could realize that it is unsafe even in the non-peak season, or even in the shoulder season, however you want to say it. So, you know, I like James, I like Rise and Alpine, and this only makes me like him more. I think this was 10 out of 10, the best way you could have handled it. You've got accountability, you've got setting the record straight, and you've got like explaining the reasoning why, and not making like excuses. And it's like it's an honest mistake. I could have very easily made the same mistake. I think anyone could have. But what sets James apart from a lot of other ski influencers or content creators in general is like the accountability piece. He says, I made a mistake, here's why, and you know, I want to set the record straight and make it right so that nobody else gets hurt. 10 out of 10, chef's kiss, shout out James. I mean, like, obviously nobody likes to be in the situation. It's not good to get there. I'm not like clapping for the mistake, but I'm more just clapping for how he handled it. That was probably the best way he could have handled it. And I just think it's, again, what kind of sets Rise and Alpine above a lot of other channels that show up on my feed. So shout out James, shout out the Ski Patrol for not just like, I don't know, being like, your pass is pulled, buddy. Or, you know, doing anything like that. It seemed like everybody just acted honestly, met in the middle, and kept skier safety as a priority. And I think in the big picture, that's what's important. So I'm sure it was awkward. He's got the whole like, you know, I'm gonna talk into the camera. He should have had like a golden retriever with him or something. That's like the typical YouTube apology. Maybe a couple tears here. But no, he just genuinely owned it, and I think that's awesome. And I see a lot of times, it's kind of wild. You know, you scroll your feed long enough, I see ski influencers who like show footage of them ducking rope. That's wild. That it's like, let me just film myself doing something that I'm not supposed to.
Yuck.
Anyway, this was like the polar opposite, and you know, I'm really good at calling out bad actors in the social media ski world, and I thought for once I would call out a good actor, because this was a mistake and handled really, really well. So shout out James, shout out Rise and Alpine. Yeah, I can't believe the stuff I see, and it's a breath of fresh air to see someone handle it maturely, maybe? Is that the word? So that's the end of the video. Let me know what you guys think. I know that you guys wanted to see more tea, more, it's not even really news, but like industry drama. I'm gonna treat it that way because I think news puts a level of veneer on it that I just don't want. And it also gives me a point of authority where there's a lot of stuff I don't really know the whole picture. So I also want to give you guys kind of that grain of salt of, this is just my perspective on it as an outsider looking in. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Also shout out to everybody who donated to the Patreon. I am so, so grateful for your guys' generosity. It looks like it will probably allow me to review like a few extra skis in the season, and I'm gonna let those Patreon people vote on the skis. I gotta keep it a little reined in. I can't let you guys fully like send me on a 140 width ski and just blow out my knee. But I do wanna give you guys, and I'm getting a lot of feedback on what people wanna see. So thank you everyone who did that. That really does affect me and help me make this kind of content. So thank you everyone who participated in that. If you're shopping for skis, please don't forget to use my affiliate links. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and that is a huge, huge financial supporter. It's probably about 60% of the channel's revenue. So as you're looking for skis, please consider doing that. I am also going to be putting together some ski deal videos coming up in the next week or two as we get closer to Black Friday. I want to help you guys save money. There's just been a ton of channel growth, a ton of support, and I really appreciate you guys. And as always, just like even watching these videos really helps me out a lot. If you have something that you'd like to see more of that you're not seeing, if you want more, you know, quiver reviews, if you want more comments and questions, if you like the ski comparisons, let me know. I'm always trying to kind of make the content that you guys want to watch. A big gauge for me isn't numbers like, oh, how many views did this get? What's the average watch time? The big metric for me, honestly, is that I go and I watch my own videos and I say, would I enjoy watching this? Because as a skier, I felt like there's this gap of content that I want to watch. You know, I've watched some content like Scotty Kilmer. He's gone off the rails a little bit, but he had the kind of content I liked watching where he talked about cars. I'm like, man, I wish there was this for skiing. And so for me, I try to create the kind of content I would want to watch. But, you know, I'm just one person. If there's something you guys want to watch more of, let me know. I am trying to make the kind of content that people want to watch. I don't care if it goes ultra viral. I don't care if it's, you know, whatever. I don't want to be the Mr. Beast of YouTube. I don't care about that. I want to make good content that you guys want to watch. Obviously, it has to get enough views that, like, it can support its own weight. But I really value your feedback, so please let me know down in the comment section. And of course, as always, thanks for taking time out of your day to watch my videos. That means a ton to me. I really can't stress enough how much I appreciate your guys' support. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. See ya.